How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. We also got to put in the disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor and this isn't financial advice. So just know when you do invest, you're doing it at your own risk. So today we're going to be talking about OCGN. We got a lot of updates in regards to Covaxin and Bharat Biotech. So hey, let's get right into it. But before we get started, you guys know I got to go over an agenda. Anyone who is new to this channel, just want to let you know we have timestamps down below in the description. But if you are a shareholder or you're considering to make an investment, I highly suggest you watch the entire video. So before we get started, the first thing that we're going to be covering is the news in regards to WHO, which is the World Health Organization, and as well as Bharat Biotech looking for that EUL, which is their emergency use listing. So we're going to be going over that, and then after that, the next update is going to be about Bharat Biotech again seeking for that FDA approval and what's going to be happening. Excited to kind of share this with you guys. And then when both of those are done, we're going to be doing a technical analysis, taking a look at the price action. We've already talked about areas of support, areas of resistance, and if it pulls back, where to look out for. Many of you have sent me messages and said, Dre, all those stuff that you've covered, that's what's been happening. Like I said, I can't predict the future, but it's a good idea if we know, so we know when we see price action, we are prepared and we're not surprised. And then when all of that is done, I'll be giving you guys my final thoughts. So let's get into it. So we're going to go over a recent article that came out, and this is an update with WHO and Bharat Biotech. So let's get into it. So the World Health Organization seeks more details from Bharat Biotech for emergency use listing of Covaxin. Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech has applied to the World Health Organization for the emergency use listing of its COVID-19 vaccine candidate, Covaxin becoming the second India-made vaccine to apply at the Global Health Agency for authorization. Covaxin is among the 3 coronavirus vaccines currently being administered in the country. India's homegrown vaccine was granted restricted emergency use approval in clinical trial mode on the 2nd of January. However, the World Health Organization has sought more information from Bharat Biotech on its EUL application for Covaxin, as per the documents on the global health body's website. Bharat Biotech has submitted 90% of the documents to WHO for obtaining the EUL for Covaxin. The remaining documents are expected to be submitted to WHO in June, news agency PTI quoted sources as saying. Bharat Biotech applies for WHO EUL. The Hyderabad-based company has submitted its expression of interest on 19th of April with more information required as per the documents. WHO's EUL is a prerequisite for COVAX facility vaccine supply. It also allows countries to expedite their own regulatory approval to import and administer coronavirus vaccines. The EUL pathway involves a rigorous assessment of late phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trial data, as well as substantial additional data on safety, efficacy, quality, and a risk management plan. As per reports, it will have to now go through 3 more stages: pre-submission meeting, dossier accepted for review, and the final status of assessment. The pre-submission meeting will take place later in May or June. In the pre-submission meeting, Bharat Biotech will state what data they have and will receive guidance from the WHO on what documents have to be submitted, an expert in a vaccine regulation said. EUL assesses the quality, safety, and efficacy of vaccines, as well as a risk management plan and programmatic suitability such as cold chain requirements. The assessment is performed by the product evaluation group composed by regulatory experts from around the world and a technical advisory group in charge of performing the risk-benefit assessment for an independent recommendation on whether a vaccine can be listed for emergency use, and if so, under which conditions. In April, the firm had issued a statement saying that the second interim data from its phase 3 trial of nearly 26,000 participants experiments showed that the vaccine has an efficacy of 78% in preventing the virus, which was partially lowered than the 80.6% found in the first interim data in March. Whose cutoff for the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines is 50%, the same as the lower limit set by regulators in India, the US, and other countries. So far, the global health body has given the EUL to COVID-19 vaccines for Pfizer BioNTech and AstraZeneca Oxford and Johnson & Johnson and China's Sinopharm. Less than 10 countries have officially approved the Covaxin, according to the data available on COVID-19 trackvaccines.org. Most nations only recognize Oxford's AstraZeneca's Covishield, manufactured by the Serum Institute, as a required vaccine for passengers coming from India. Meanwhile, Bharat Biotech may begin pediatric trials of its COVID-19 vaccine Covaxin from June. The firm will also be ramping up the manufacturing capacity of Covaxin to 700 million doses by the end of the year. So let's go over the second update for Bharat Biotech and Covaxin. So Covaxin's global push in top gear. Bharat Biotech eyeing U.S. trials interest from 11 nations. Bharat Biotech is in advanced negotiations with the U.S. FDA for conducting small-scale Phase 3 clinical trials for Covaxin in the US. And also to show you the update that they also have on Twitter, Bharat Biotech in the final stages of negotiations with the US FDA for conducting small-scale Phase 3 clinical trials of Covaxin in the US sources. So we have this information confirmed from two different sources, and I must say, I think it needs to be examined. And it's part of the reasons why we saw some volatility in the stock today. We have to understand the fact that they're going to be conducting trials on US soil. This is going to be taking some time. What does this mean? We may not be able to get any information in regards to an update. It's going to take some months. Some are saying 3 months, some are saying 2 months. Hey, some are even saying 4 months. I'm looking at it in the effect that I want to see some sort of a result or some sort of confirmation before 3 months. We've already know that they're going to be conducting their pediatric trials in June, and again, that's going to be regulated in India. They have the authorization to do so, but we also got to keep in mind they're going to be using even more resources. And the fact of the matter is, we want to know, when is OCGN or ocugen, to be exact, they need to get Covaxin in, and they got to rely on getting an initial batch from Bharat Biotech. So there's a lot of questions here, and it's part of the reasons why I'm not too surprised that many investors are also getting impatient. But for the most part, it's also good to see, because I think as far as getting clinical trials done in the US, not only does it add a little bit more legitimacy, but it also can give some more rooms maybe for improvements. And they also just want to make sure before they actually give it an FDA approval that, hey, this is a good vaccine. You tested it over here, but we want to make sure we test it in here before we actually use it on our population. And you really can't be mad at that. So let's get into the technical analysis, and yeah, I'll give you guys my final thoughts afterwards. So we're going to be doing a technical analysis for OCGN. So let's take a look at how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $7.96, being down 8.08%. On the low, it tested $7.89, and then on the high, testing $8.71. So what we're going to be taking a look at is how it lines up with their indicators. Just in case you're curious, the chart that we're using is actually the 6-month 2-hour chart. So right now, how it's lining up, it is below the 100-day, it's below the 21-day EMA, and it's also below the 200-day. So the pattern overall is definitely looking bearish here. If you take a look at the RSI down below, it is right here around this 34, 36 level. So that definitely does tell us that, hey, it is oversold. So does this mean that this is an opportunity? If you believe in the long-term prospects and you see a lot of upside in the stock, then most definitely. But if the stock does decide to pull back even further, some areas that I'll be looking out for will definitely be right around this $7 level. Also keeping an eye on this area right here around $6, and also right here right around, I would call this around $5.25. If this area ever ever did decide to end up breaking, then of course you're going to be testing into 5, and if it goes below $5, then the next level will be right here around 4. So would it end up actually doing all of that by this week? No, not exactly. But unless some news came out that kind of put even more pressure on it, then I could definitely see $6 being tested. Another thing to also keep in mind of the fact is areas of resistance. So now that we've kind of broken through $9 and we kind of broke right through $8, and sorry, we're actually sitting on $8 because we did close at $7.96. $9 is now going to become that psychological area. So in order to start seeing a reversal in this pattern and a move to the upside, we got to reclaim $9, and with increased volume and buying pressure, reclaim back here to where you can see the 100-day and test $10. Is that going to be happening this week? Hey, it all depends. We never know what type of catalyst may come up for this stock. So for my final thoughts for OCGN, and we've been talking about this for quite some time on the channel, the longer we go without news or not seeing those big time catalysts, we're going to see a lot of selling pressure in this stock. There's many investors who are impatient, and the fact that we ended up getting the updates that we got today is no surprise at all why we saw the price action. This is why I always emphasize to you guys to make sure you're watching the technical analysis portion in the videos so you can see what happens where it decides to pull back. Again, this is just good, especially if you're doing any swing trading or short-term trading for your risk management. As far as what Bharat Biotech is trying to achieve, this is actually really good. If you remember, we spoke about this on the weekend. We started talking about, hey, they need to make it on that list for WHO, which is the World Health Organization, in regards to vaccines. And the fact that they're going to be taking that step is something that is really good to see. Of course, Bharat Biotech has to submit a bit more details, but hey, at the end of the day, I feel like this will be beneficial overall in general. Is there going to be travel bans if they do not make the list? No, not necessarily at all. Again, a lot of people who are traveling, it's just more so making sure you have a negative test. In some cases, they might want to know about you actually having the vaccine and so forth. But I think it's more so comes down to perception. Just being on that list overall in general, hey, it's just a good thing even for anyone who's actually deciding to travel to the country or traveling out. It's just a perception side of it. We already know as far as in a technical sense, yes, you had Covaxin. It doesn't mean that, you know what, you can't travel outside of India or people can't go to India. That's just one thing I want to get clear here. But also just seeing that, hey, Bharat Biotech is taking that step, making sure that, hey, they want to make sure Covaxin is being used on a global scale. Many countries are using it already, but they just want to expand that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And what else we can benefit from is ocugen. We already know ocugen has an agreement with Bharat Biotech saying getting about 45% of overall US sales. So taking all this into consideration and also noticing on the fact many people are saying, what is ocugen doing? What is their part? Bharat Biotech now has to work with the FDA and stuff like that. So again, a lot of people started getting a clear idea of what has been going on. As far as for the CEO for ocugen, I feel like he could have been a little bit more descriptive, or he could have made things a little bit more clear in regards to the entire process. I think he kind of failed there. That is my personal opinion, and it's part of the reasons why we ended up getting a reaction, because I think he kind of kept people not fully in the know. But hey, I understand it. He's running a public company, millions of dollars. He did an offering. He's trying to bring his company forward. We already know what their core business is, so I can see where his angle's actually coming from. But I do believe he should have been actually communicating and being a little bit more transparent in regards to the whole situation. Again, that's just how I feel about that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.